So this is the approach, which approach you take, or template or repository API versus the comparison and then SQL and non-SQL world. So here is in the next screencast, you see the detail. You need to be carefully understand these pictures. So you have a template, you have a repository API. So it's a SQL structured query language, non-SQL query structured query. So non-SQL, so you start querying SQL structural query language. You have a JdbC template, you have a Hibernate template, and JPA template, simple JdbC template, name parameter JdbC template, SQL map client template, and then into the non-SQL world. And depending, this is because this is a complexity. So if you have a SQL-based any database like Mongo, PostGIS, or MySQL, Oracle, or DB2 Informatics, and then you have the possibility to come up those solutions, or those combine those solutions and integrate those implementation or those API into your development frameworks like here. So all the templates, and then you have a JPA repository, and you have a CRUD repository, and paging and sorting repository. As I said, I already discussed a lot those issues and those repository into my screencast number 30. Just follow that one. You can get the really good idea what I mean and how I did the developments. The non-SQL world, it has a MongoDB template, Cassandra template, Redis template. So it's a database specific. If you are a replication backend server based on the MongoDB, you have to use the MongoDB template. And if you have Cassandra, the Cassandra template is available, and Redis template, and Elasticsearch template. I already have some REST points, web services for based on those all the backend server. Just follow my look for my channels, and then look for the playlist, and there is a specified define this playlist with MongoDB, Cassandra, Redis, Gamefire, and Elasticsearch, those things repository. So it is a database specific template. You can also use those depending on which database you are, and then you in down level you see the MongoDB repository. So that means that's I said that between which option you have to go. It's template or repository APIs based, and is it SQL based database or it's non-SQL based database, depending on your frameworks. But this screencast, the idea was like we are using here PostGIS and PostGIS for the geoprocessing. That's why I'm trying to give it to you the overall idea, what the possibility for the SQL world, which template possibility, and what's the API and its repository APIs available to you do your application developments. So here right side, you have a MongoDB repository, Cassandra database, Cassandra repository, Elasticsearch repository based on the Elasticsearch database, and this is object database. That's how everybody knows, I believe. Redis and Gamefire, it has JPG repository, CRUD, and paging and sorting repository, depending. That's I said. That's I said, because if you are in the Spring Boot or Spring Data JDBC, then you have all combination for this part, and the all combination when you have in the specific non-SQL databases. There's a lot of functionalities. You just call it, use the template, or you just use all the respective repository and build your application. So here is a REST template, what I using for calling the REST services to build the GUI or UI by Thymeleaf or any Angular, and I call the REST template, and then do the CRUD operation, basically head, get, post, delete, and options methods, all the possibilities you can call this one. So on the template example, JdbC template class, classical use, this is a class use, and you see the very simple. You just JdbC template you annotate as a an auto-aware that your JdbC template. I make it really prototypical models. So I get query for integer, and I select query, and from the address info tables. But I'll show you how can you implement those into the Java, and how can you expose those queries results set into as a REST API, and how we can call those REST endpoint Angular or React. It doesn't matter. That's I mean. So you see that one of the very simple query. I give it to you how the JdBC template work, and how I implemented, how I expose the REST endpoint based on the JdBC template. even though with JDBC template plus JPA, that's I will talk to you later that this part of this. So here's the second query. It's counting the accounts and where's the address type. You can say off and then so on and so forth. And then you have a really complex query like you have a here the object and then you build the your necessary address information object and set the necessary values and reiterate through read all the information from your database with the Spring Boot JDBC connections. And then even though connections plus the JDBC template. If you are the Spring Boot JDBC connection, your data source is Spring is data source is defined and is make a bean for the JDBC template, and then it's automatically handle the all things in the bottom level. So in one short example, so we have a JDBC template. You run the query. Here is your mapping address information mapping, and you map all the information that you have result sets, and is a row number, the standard is the row mappers. So you said you define your object and set the respective field, which is here define your SQL statements. Just very simple example, but I will show you when I start the complete projects. And here the skill uses the update and delete, and then this is the update the insert into the address informations, and then you see the one field need to be updated, the address type field need to be added in the question mark. That means you pass the parameters, and then there's another update statement. You define your IDs and put the set the values, and then it works automatically, because I said that if you are in the JDBC template or NamedParameterJdbcTemplate or simple JDBC template, depending which one you are, and then based on that you need to be just change your syntax, and it works. And this is one example for the JDBC template. And JDBC template uses the other options like execute, and in this case then update other operation. You can use the also JDBC template. Best practices for the JDBC templated, you can see you can define your DAO, and here is one example how JDBC template works in the Java part. So you define your JDBC template, you annotate your whatever, and you set your data source from maybe you read your connection properties like URL, user and password from the application.properties files, or depending how many environments you have it, and you read the byte values from as a key with value annotation. But I will show you value annotation. It's automatically connect to your primary data set or primary database or secondary database, depending which database you are. Maybe your application has a primary database, and you try to make a secondary database to connect and then to get the data from the secondary database. That's also you can do it with the application.properties file or EML file, depending which configuration approach you try to do it. But the basic structure, like you define your JDBC template bean and set the bean for the set data source, and then it's connect to your which respective data source you are, and it's all the connection communication and closing the opening and closing all the resources. And then one of the example here, the prototypical example, like you have a template and you auto-where the say data source and get the data source, and you see that the data source here. This is data source for JDBC template. So here is one of the really short example, NamedParameterJdbc template here. So you define your NamedParameterJdbc template, auto-where, and set the resources, and you write the simple query here. So you have an input and address type. You have a query like counting from address information where address type something, and you pass your parameters and get your results for query for integer from name parameter, query for integer, and then you pass the query from here that you have it in the query, and pass the parameter that you need to pass it, that is counting returning the integer value for total count for this in parameter address types. So that's why I give it to really abstract level information, how it is used, how we can use it. But when I did the really developments, just you can get it really more ideas in the next screencast. So here the simple JDBC template practice in example. So you define the same thing here. You define your simple JDBC template. You set your data data set, set resources, data sources, and then you do the operations, what you like to do the CRUD operation, create, update, delete operation, depending where you need it. So this is two input